What is up, everybody? Rajay back in the house on a Tuesday. I know on a Tuesday, you don't expect it on a Tuesday, but I am here and I'm honored to have Linda Cooley here, CEO, Mad River Brewing Company. We're going to talk about the stuff they're doing out in California, Humboldt County, which I didn't know where that was. I had to actually pull up a map, kind of check out where it was. And then I realized I was just kind of southeast of there at one point, down in Sacramento. So that's a little ways down southeast of you, but it's still southeast from where you're at. But I know up in that area, some lovely countryside, and you got the big national park. And we're going to kind of get into talking about the brewery and the things you've done, the stuff you're doing out there, kind of the history, all that good stuff. And of course, I'm going to drink some beer. So can't have a beer show without drinking some beer, right? So yeah, but welcome. And now you were kind enough. You actually sent in three different things here, and I'm wondering which one should I start with, right? So, is there a preference you have? One you prefer usually?
I would start with the Steelhead Extra Pale. It's going to be the lightest. Yeah.
Start with the lightest and go up. So I usually start hard and come down.
Not a horrible way to go.
No. Crack this baby open. So this is the Steelhead Extra Pale Ale, and this one comes in with the. I cracked it up before I did that, so let me see here. Yeah, I don't want to spill it anywhere.
So that's our flagship. That's our
let me
flagship
pour it.
beer.
Yeah. And then I'll look at the can. That'd be better, probably. I want to say, because I did the unboxing, and I did it. I want to say it's like, was it 5.6 or something on this one?
5.6 ABV, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so yeah, I do remember some stuff. And get it up here so people can see the can. We got the, now Steelhead is a type of fish, I take it, right? I believe.
It is, yes.
Okay.
We have a bunch of Steelhead in Northern California.
Okay, that's what I was kind of figuring with the fish on there, and Extra Pale Ale. And so with Mad River, you actually have, I know on the website, and we'll talk about that here in a bit as well. So there was like 7 different beers, 2 different seltzers you had out there. You had the Steelhead, but then you also have the Mad River IPA, the Redwood Stout, the Uniontown Porter, Slammin' Salmon Double IPA, the Jamaica Red Ale, and the Historic State Park IPA. And then you have the 2 seltzers, the Undammed Hard Hop Seltzer Cucumber and the Undammed Hard Hop Seltzer Huckleberry. And then there's other stuff you also do, but those are kind of the ones you're focused on now, and those are the ones you're featuring.
Yeah, we have our core beers, and then we have some beers that we kind of keep hidden more for specialty. We have our John Barley Corn that's aged that we have brews back from 2014 that we age, that we slowly release. And then we're looking to add to our portfolio here in the near future too.
Okay. Are there any styles that you commonly are a big fan of that you like to really enjoy?
Yeah, so the red is just a unique beer, and not many people do a classic red. It's kind of uncommon at this point, and ours is a Jamaica Red with that traditional spices of a Jamaica Red. It's so unique and well balanced and smooth on your palate. I think due to the fact that it's so different, it's possibly outside of our Huckleberry Seltzer, my favorite beer in our category. But every day I'm more of a light beer drinker because I'm also a little bit of a lightweight. But a good IPA, our Citra IPA, our Historic State Park, that citrus hops is also becoming one of my favorites just because of the pungent flavor, and it adds more depth without weighing you down with that extra heaviness.
Gotcha. Well, I would say this one has a nice little crisp, clean feel to it. You definitely get a feel of the hops, a little bit of a pineness in there.
It's really smooth. The IBUs is only 26.2. It's extremely smooth. It's that medium body, very mild bitterness. We have 2 gold and 2 silvers at the Great American Beer Festival on that, and we have 2 bronze at the World Beer. So it's a very well-known beer and highly awarded.
Yeah, comes through nicely with the balance against the malts on the backside. But yeah, nice mouthfeel for sure on this one here. say a little bit of a grassy sensation in there as well, but easy to put down, especially if it's a warmer type day. I could be out fishing, knocking those back with no problem. So
Fishing, swimming at a Giants game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the Giants too, because that's huge as well. So we're going to kind of so many good things to actually jump into here. But since we hit that right now, congrats to you for the Giants deal. So, and it's not just because you got into the ballpark, DC craft with the ballpark, but it's like the first tribal owned brewery into a ballpark anywhere here in the States, which is pretty freaking awesome. So how excited are you about that? How'd that come into play? I mean, how long were you working on that? I mean, the opportunity and everything. And I know you got to be happy the baseball strike's over now, because now you can start showing the beers.
It's almost unbelievable. I still have to pinch myself. As an Indigenous Native American, we're always tokenized and put in this false pretense, or people literally come here, tourists from other areas, and there's remarks of, I didn't know there was Native Americans left. It's it's a big topic that I don't think we ever talk about, on how we feel about how we're portrayed. So to have any tribal product in any stadium where it's sold appropriately and we're allowed to tell our own story, that alone, I never thought would happen, especially in the time where we're dealing with teams changing names and having to rethink what they thought years prior. So that alone is unbelievable. I think even having a tribal brewery, that was a huge turning point where I thought, oh my gosh, this is time. It's time where we're thinking that we can do this. We're going to get over the narrative that Native Americans can't handle alcohol. So the combination of all of them, and I'm a huge sports fan. Literally, sports and beer is a big part of my life, and I'm just naturally that person. To have them all in one package, it just doesn't seem real, and it almost makes me feel like, what's not possible? What can we do next? The partnership, we started chatting with them like 6 months ago, and we were honest. We called them. We had another missing murdered Indigenous woman on my reservation, and it was a really hard time, and we were honest, saying we just need help. Nobody ever pays attention to these things that we're fighting for. Is there any way we can possibly sell one of our beers in your stadium? And they took it seriously. They heard us and they cared about our tribal issues. And some of our products reflects the issues that we're fighting, and we plan to stay with that. So to have that all together is unbelievable. And then the lockout happened. I was like, of course, we buy a brewery and there's a pandemic 3 weeks later. Now we get into an MLB team and there's a strike or a lockout. So to have it all happen, and now we're in go time prepping for that, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. No, so I was thinking about that like last week with the time and the things, and it was like, woo, she's got to be happy that this thing ended. Well, a lot of people too, a lot of it, so now it's an opportunity to actually showcase the wares. You mentioned about the awards, and I think when we're going over like the details, so you ended up, I think it was like 7 awards for the Great American Beer Fest, I believe, which is a good amount of awards to get noted out there, because everybody knows the Great American Beer Fest is like the beer fest of beer fest, right? So that's where a lot of recognition is done. It's where you kind of want to get your stuff displayed. So the word had to be growing about how good you guys were doing because of that success you were having out there. So to be able to bring that there to the ballpark and the other people in California, and now to have it just as part of the whole tribal corporation, so to speak, is a phenomenal type thing. And the one thing I was thinking, I was getting prepared for this stuff is, you were mentioning like the stereotype type thing. I think about that kind of stuff. Like, was there any kind of negative feedback or whatever? Because when people think about Native Americans, they think about, not being able to drink because there's the whole stereotype of alcoholism. And it's just like, the tribal leaders, were they kind of like, oh, we don't know yet? Or was it kind of been more of an acceptance? I mean, where I've been around a different country, different spots, I know like the whole thing, the casinos are pretty much accepted now, but I didn't know how it would be to run a brewery, how that would come into play.
It's been intense, to say the least. And surprisingly enough, it isn't even just tribal people, it's everyone outside of that. We had a lot of comments. And in fact, when we did press releases up until the Giants ones, I would take 3 days to just kind of not read comments of people saying, How dare you? Alcohol is what kills natives. And to hear non-native people say that is
Yeah.
dumbfounding, right? I mean, it's just the ultimate form of racism of everyone else can
I
drink
may know a little
alcohol,
something about that. I may know a little something.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Except us.
So,
And
yeah.
do you ask every ethnicity if
Yeah.
they should be drinking or making alcohol? And it's crazy because casinos sell they're the biggest beer sellers of keg beer in California.
Hmm.
But the thought of us making it was just this barrier. And it was mixed reviews with tribal people. I think it took a little bit, but it was more of the opportunity to get the story out there and also let people know that that's a false narrative and false facts.
Hmm.
And it's a form of suppression. We have the same tolerance as anyone else. There's just fewer of us
Hmm.
left. And it's
Yeah.
under a magnifying glass when we were annihilated and taken out. There's only so many left. So when any one of us have a situation, it's highlighted. And the real problem is trauma. It's not one specific thing. So it's been a turning point, and I really think coming clean with how we feel about that and calling out this is a false narrative and we need to stand up and change this with the giants has kind of changed that mindset of, hey, you're right, that's very racist. Why are we asking you that? Why
Yeah.
aren't we asking everyone else? And maybe this question shouldn't be asked anymore.
Yeah. Well, 2022, there's still a lot of ignorance. So we do. It's
There's
out
so
there.
much. It's so much, so much, so
And,
much.
then, and every year I find out more and more. So,
Hmm. It
but
really
no,
is, right? And
yeah,
we think we're past it, and we're not.
yeah. But like doing what you're doing, you're helping to break through that ceiling there. And the other
Hmm.
part of it too is and I always talk about this at show at different parts and stuff. I think I brought it up even last week. You're mainly a woman-led brewery, which is awesome.
Hmm.
And as I tell people, we talk about brewing, educate people, and it's like people are like some don't know like women were the original brewers. So I always find
Hmm.
it funny and ironic that you don't have as many women breweries or women brewers out
Hmm.
there when they were the ones that pretty much started it. Obviously, there were things that got
Hmm.
behind it. It kind of got pushed out of being in the brewing thing. It was the money started coming in and men started taking over stuff. But it was just like, I feel like, it's just like they got ran out of the thing they created pretty much.
Hmm.
And
We have
so,
this. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, so having you on and being able to now take that torch and run with it as well, and what you're doing is an awesome thing too.
Thank you. Right. And I think we create this false narrative in our head that to be in the beer business, we need to have a long beard and we need to look a certain way. And that's not
Hmm.
always true. It's really been interesting in my career time. I was just talking to someone. I started on my 21st birthday. So I've seen the evolution of how women are treated in the beer industry, and I've been part of it. Because when
Hmm.
I started, we were not CEOs. It was a
Hmm.
very rare situation. We would be asked to leave so that boys could talk. We were mostly like as promo girls or office people. So to
Hmm.
see where we're at now, it's a huge transformation. And I think we're getting back to how it should be. And we all have these different opinions and thoughts. And so to bring it all together and bring up diversity and inclusion and why it's necessary and why it's beautiful, it's a good time. And I feel like we're fortunate to be a round example of that on you can be all of those things and still be successful.
Definitely, definitely. And last year, I caught up a little bit in conversations with Brienne, aka Rap Magnet, right? So
Mm-hmm.
were there things that you've kind of obviously you've dealt with some stuff, but have you seen other things come out maybe on the
Mm-hmm.
positive side, following the reckoning and everything like that that has taken place as far as now people are being called out on stuff, now things are being noticed more. Now it's like we're not tolerated. There were a few breweries that had to go through their incidents over the last year, but also over the last few months. It's almost like, what month is it? Oh, somebody's due to get in trouble for something probably. So,
Mm-hmm.
because some people still haven't learned. They still haven't learned and they need to be held accountable when they do stuff. So, like on your end, what did you kind of see out of that? What did you actually pick up anything out of it? Or were you contributing in any type of way with some of the other women in brewing on pointing out things that needed to be done?
I think that just literally not accepting the comments that are given to you anymore and declining some questions and calling people out on it. Am I not getting this opportunity because XYZ? Are you not listening to me because XYZ? And I've noticed that the more we talk about it, people are getting ultra sensitive, like, oh, we can't even joke anymore. And that's even more maddening because I've been in the beer business forever. I am all about jokes and drinking beer and watching sports and eating hot wings. There's a difference between telling a joke and blocking an opportunity because of the color of my skin or my gender. And I
Mhm.
think just literally stating that fact of we can joke, but when you block my opportunity or you say I can't do something, now we have a problem with that. And the evolution in the last 4 years, I think, especially in craft beer and the beer business, it's unbelievable on how fast it's moved. And I don't know if I've contributed to it, but I hope in our little section of the world, whether it's indigenous or females, that we start having better conversations and being honest about what we want and what we need and what's okay and what's not okay.
Right. And that was part of it too, in some of the conversations. Um, as speaking to Brienne, I also speak to like Carl Lauder, the Beer Babe, and speak to a lot of other. Last year I had one of the shows was Women in Beer Volume One. I got to do a Volume 2 here, and I'd love to maybe have you come back and be a part of that because I just had a whole women
Yeah.
panel. We discussed a lot of different things there, and I pretty much just stood in the back like, okay, you guys all go, and I'll ask questions. But it's like I want the women to be able to express themselves, right? So. Um, and part of the thing I brought up, it's not just, on the women either. A lot of times it's on the guys that allow it to happen and they sit there and don't say nothing, or they do that uncomfortable laugh. Like, it's just like they got to call it out as well when we see stuff like that actually happen too. And I think that's what started to happen in the spots. It started seeing things like that. And you do have some of that stepping up, and then some of basically the management people are getting the thing because they're usually the ones that allow it to happen, or they're actually the ones out there doing it. I'm not going to throw any breweries out there like that, but we know some common names that are out there that do stuff they should be doing. And if it's coming from the top down, then the people below them aren't going to have any respect for it either. So it was good to see some of the breweries respond the way they did to push it back up the hill and say, cut it out or we're all leaving. Like I know one brewery in Columbus where the whole staff quit one day at a tap house, and it was like they just shut it down. So, and it was like one of the more well-known ones that just got purchased by AB and Bev like a couple years ago. So people were getting tired of it, and it's not just the women, but some of the men are throwing stuff in there too, which is what's needed.
We have to create a whole new culture, right? A company culture. And some companies, they have this culture that they've had forever. And to change a company, it sounds like it's something you could change overnight, but it's really breaking so many habits of an entire company. And it takes time, and you lose people in that. And knowing that you might have to take that risk if someone's not willing to change the way they communicate or the message they put out or how they handle themselves, and giving them that training and prepping them for this is why you can't do that, right? Like we say, hey, you can't say that. We don't give the education or training on how or why. And that's so important. And we're learning that now as we evolve. And even with that, it doesn't mean we can't have fun or tell jokes or change like our nightlife fun. It's just really how we block opportunities from others and how we can tell flat out insults or things that are completely offensive. That's not okay. Right. And it can't happen anymore. So it's good to see the change. I'm excited.
Yeah, it definitely has been good to see the change taking place. And I think it makes it a more fun thing because the one thing about beer when I first came into the community and 7 years ago, kind of starting the channel and going around and starting to tell the stories of different breweries. I never really myself ran into negative situations, and to me it was all welcoming. But I had friends that I ran into stuff, or they would mention stuff, whether it was a woman or whether it was someone that might be Black or someone that was Asian or Latino. It was just kind of some uncomfortable things that were out there. And it was kind of like, well, these things need to be talked about as well because you're trying to get everything in there. And, just like I was just like a gun, right? 90% of gun owners are safe gun owners. 90% of beer drinkers are fine, but it's that little percentage that ends up ruining it for everybody. And if you don't stop it, I always say it's like I used to watch that show, The Greatest Catch, or the Alaska one on the boats or whatever, Deadliest Catch.
Oh, Deadliest Catch, yeah.
Deadliest Catch. And one of the episodes, they basically had a crab that died in the pit where they put all the crab in when they catch them. And they were talking about how they get that crab out because if one dies, it starts spreading the poison. And it affects all the other ones. And that's kind of like how these bad ones that are out here, it starts to affect other people. And there's things that happen and people are like, oh, no, it couldn't have been this or it couldn't have been that. Like, yeah, it actually was, but they just don't go deep into knowing it. So it starts to affect it and things become accepted behavior. And that's the parts that have to change. So not to get on the
behavior.
The behavior.
Behavior drives results, right? All of our behaviors are what's creating our environment. Yeah.
So we got a couple. Mallory, she actually does a Perfect with Me Crafts. She does a beer craft channel. She's actually going to be on next week on the channel here. But she said your story is very inspiring. So she's definitely there.
That's awesome.
Then my friend Bart, who's up in New Jersey, great guest tonight. Enjoyed listening to her. So and it's great. So, nice. So it's great to have, these type of things because, it's a way to communicate the things that need to be communicated. And, it's not like a confrontation. Like this is like, look, these are things that happen and we have to have these conversations. For some people, they may be uncomfortable, but they need to be done. And, if somebody comes out and they learn one thing, then it's worth it in my book. So that's why
I think too. And giving people hope that you can do things, right? If you would have told me that a little girl from the reservation where we didn't have phone lines or internet and the house down for me was the last house with power, that we could be in this position, I would have never believed you. And it's not even just a reservation from that demographic that you can go and turn it into a positive spin and create awareness while creating something amazing. If we can do that, then it's all worth it, right?
Yeah, it's all about being that seed, right? Someone sees that it can be done. You don't know how that's going to affect someone down the line that comes along and they see that or hear that or react to it. So you just never know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You always got to try to push forward and everything. But I was going to say, so you have a partnership there with. Look at my phone, my thing here. My readers are on. Iowa Farms, but that's operated by the Iowa tribe of Kansas and Nebraska, which is cool. And they basically have the control there. So you kind of have everything all in-house, which is nice from the different tribal groups that you're working with. So it's not even just helping in your tribe, it's helping a lot of the other tribes too that are coming apart with it.
Yeah, so we're trying to focus, one of my biggest focus is intertribal commerce. And so we have partnered with the Iowa tribe of Kansas, Nebraska. They're big on farming, and we don't have that opportunity here. We have a lack of water, the serious crazy drought that we're having in California for eternity. So as of this year, we're starting a partnership with them to grow our ingredients. So that way, not only are we farm to table, but we're a whole tribal product. And there are other tribes and other people trying to get in this situation. And creating a pathway on what does this look like to help each other. And whether you're tribal or not, you're a small brewery at some point starting out and you want to get good ingredients for maybe not the biggest person in town that's quality. So we're working with them and we're talking about a further partnership. They're across the United States and the Midwest. And we're looking at other partnerships with other tribes to really band together and create something better while having a premium product and making sure that our ingredients and everything is at the top of the line and staying true to our story.
Nice. And the tribe you're a member of is Yurok, correct?
Yes, okay. We're the largest tribe in California.
Really? Okay. See, I didn't know that. And I didn't know about the tribe till I started reading the information as well. And yeah, I feel like, I say, you get a lot of American history and you see it like with Black American history or Latin American history. It's like there's so much not known. Like everybody thinks when they think of Indian tribes, they think of the Seminoles, or they think of Blackfoot, or there's the Sioux, the Cherokee, but there's so many more that are out there. And it's like I would love to just more stories told about that, just because it's not like you can just put everybody into these like 4 or 5 different things. There's like so much history that's just not told. But the tribe that you have out there, so they're mainly California, I guess, then, or do they go
we're
into
Northern California.
Okay.
No, we're Northern California. Yeah, and we're one of the few tribes that were not misplaced during colonization. So even though we did have 70% of our people taken away from us, we maintain to stay on our land, and we're working hard on getting that ancestral territory back. And actually, California state parks have been a really big partner in helping us, and hence why we have historic state park beer, of staying true to that, and staying with our culture and our language and our ceremonies, and telling our story on those beers. And that's one of the things is people don't really pick up stories about tribes. It's kind of one of those things when you start tell someone you're Native American, they kind of get this wince on their face, like it's such a traumatic history. I don't think they know what to say. So we just don't talk about it because it's really awkward. And so this opportunity, maybe not make it so awkward and start the conversation.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm like, tell me more. Tell me more.
Right, right. Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, there's a history that goes back into the country with some of the slavery being taken in by some of the tribes and stuff like that and everything. And somewhere along the line, my mom said back to the family, we're supposed to be part, like our family was like part Blackfoot because there was a merge down there, like, and it was someone down in Virginia. I was like, I get my DNA test back, and I'm like, I don't have any in me. She's like, well, I swear, we were told this was what happened. So,
right.
Well, that is funny because my wife tells me the same thing. I say, you probably got nothing in you either. So,
that's so funny.
But there's definitely the camaraderie there too. Because I have other friends online in some of the Facebook groups that I've been a part of, going back to when we had the whole pipeline issue taking place and stuff like that, and the stories that you hear, the stories that are coming out now, the stories about the schools where they're finding all these graves and stuff. It's just terrible. Yeah, and it's just like crazy. So it's kind of like I feel like a passionate part, to want to tell the story and share the news about this different stuff that goes on through there. And that's why I'm so giddy about the success you're having out there, because it's like it's great to have, because there is a low number. You look at the craft brewing industry, and I think Black ownership is less than 3 or 4% or something like that, everything. So I think you're lower than that number, and there's not many of the Asian ownership or Latino. So it's kind of like, 96% white, which is fine. Like I said, the majority of stuff, everything's cool. Nothing really happens, but it's just, when you see that exposure from other groups, and that's what makes diversity so big, it helps to make it a better community for everybody, which helps to grow and creates all different types. Like I got one of my friends now, he's up in Ohio. He runs Black Frog Brewing, and he does like a sweet potato beer. Like that comes from the culture of being Black and doing that, right? So, and the people that come there, it's probably about 80% white that come to his brewery, and they all love it. And it's just like, you wouldn't have had that if he didn't come in with that experience. And that's what diversity adds. You coming in, bringing in different things. One of the other guys I know, he's up in Columbus. He does some different stuff where he experiments. And it's just, you're bringing in your history into things, and you're trying stuff differently. So that's the fun thing of why craft brewing, I think, keeps exploding, because everybody's bringing in different ideas. The whole whether soul's Black is beautiful allowed a lot of people to experiment and try different things. So that's the fun of craft beer.
Yeah, and it ties everything together, right? We talk about like history not known. While my dad was alive, he had a sign that was up in our local bars here that said no liquor served to Indians. And that was the reality of his life. Some bars didn't serve you, and those signs were still up when he was 21, 22.
Really?
And having that trauma, or, our voting rights, we were not up front in line on the voting rights. And even my grandmother was in a boarding school in Oregon where she was treated horribly, and things happened to her. And she had some of her family that were supposed to be vaccinations to sterilize them.
Oh no, they sterilize.
We have so many truths that I think people don't know about, and even the pipeline, people don't really know the full story of what happened there. And I think the war we're having now with Ukraine, and everyone's all of a sudden like, how can people hurt a sovereign nation? And I'm sitting here like, oh my God, really? And granted, that's horrible what's happening. They don't deserve that. But I'm also like, how are we so defensive and supportive of these poor people when American sovereign nations are still having this happen? We had to go fight for our water for 20 years to get it released. It's unbelievable, and it's a good time. We can take all those negatives and put it into a positive, and take some of our ingredients that we've used historically and put it in a beverage for people to enjoy and start the conversation. It doesn't have to be heavy. It can be light. It can be fun.
Right. It's just, it's the acknowledgement part of it, and then trying to make it a better thing. And that was something we got into as well. I think we talked about that maybe last week. It's just like, what's happening there shouldn't be happening. But at the same point, you can't be upset there and then not be upset about other stuff that happened too. It's like, if you're going to do it for one, you got to do it for all, or don't do it for any, because you're picking and choosing who you're going to actually feel sympathy for. But I saw something like that at one of the groups I'm in on Facebook. It's a Native American group, and it was a meme about that, like pretty much, about being upset about the Ukraine thing. Then it showed like the Native American bodies and stuff too. It's like, it's rough reality. I mean, that's stuff you got to consider. So yeah.
When I saw those huge corporations saying we're changing our colors blue and yellow to fight for sovereignty, I was like, we're here every day of the week. Are you not lighting it up for us? Oh my gosh.
Not even here. They're still making money in China too. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
As people come under attack there. But the purpose, the beer with the purpose, you guys your beers are coming up with the titles. The Undammed, I kind of like that one as far as the name. So you want to talk about like the whole damming type, because you're basically about the biggest like expansion here to remove dams that have been causing harm to the land. And that's what the beer is behind, right? That's the whole message with it as you're working to get these dams removed.
So we are on the Klamath River, which is one of the largest breeding grounds for salmon. Feeds all the salmon that's commercially caught in the Pacific Ocean on our side, and the river is our life. And we have been fighting for low water levels. When I was younger, I woke up literally in my front yard is the river, and it was just solid silver with fish floating up dead on their back, and the smell. And I remember thinking, like, the world's ending. What's happening? Like, how is this happening? And due to all of the water being dammed and taken and misused, we have messed with Mother Nature so bad, we're about to lose our salmon population for eternity. That's natural. So the Yurok tribe, my tribe, has been fighting for over 20 years to bring down 4 dams to restore the water and all the habitat. Also, we can't even get in the river at some times of the year. You'll get a rash, and now we don't have drinking water.
Wow.
So in 2023, and we're starting 2022, it's the largest dam removal in the history of the world to start bringing these down to restore that water balance. And, you know, people say, well, the dams feed XYZ, but it's really just about balance and monitoring the water outtake. We don't have to have these huge dams to share our water. And we've messed with Mother Nature so bad now that we're messing with whole populations of things that we count on, and it's really scary. So we named it Undammed literally, I don't know, 4 weeks before the judgment came in finally that they were going to bring down the dams. And that was our call to please help us. We have to get these dams down. We have no other option. No one's helping us. No one's paying attention. And after a profit, part of that goes back to water restoration that will need to happen for years after the dam removal. And then we have the huckleberry, which I sent you, which is an indigenous flavor to us in our area, and also my favorite.
Okay, all right. Yeah. You know, it's funny. When I saw the huckleberry, I always think about, for me, it's like Tombstone, because Tombstone's like a movie. This is the one I end up watching. I've seen it so many times. And this is Huckleberry. I just started thinking Huckleberry line. But no, that was interesting with the Huckleberry. And I knew it was kind of like a regional type thing with that one there, because you don't get Huckleberry all over the country here. So yeah, I guess I'll crack that one open here. And this is a 5% ABV, so not too bad at all.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's hot. So go ahead.
No, I said these are actually all lower beers when I usually drink, so I'm in good shape.
You're good. Yeah. So we hop this beer. We hop this seltzer just like beer. And when we talk about making a seltzer, we realize we make beer. We don't really make other things. So why not make our seltzer like the beer? And we realized when we did it this way, it had less of a bitter finish on your palate, like some of them.
Right.
They're all natural ingredients, and hopping it gave it a more round finish as opposed to that offensive bitter one. So we did the cucumber to start the cucumber mint, and it's really smooth, chill. It's not overly offensive. And the huckleberry was really our dedication to that flavor if you're someone that really needs that flavor.
Well, the aroma really comes out easy. I'm not even trying to sniff, and the aroma is just coming out of the glass. And you're getting a nice, almost like a sweet tart type feel to the nose from the aroma. And obviously it's a seltzer, so the head goes down. Oh, that smells actually really good.
The color is beautiful.
Yeah.
We have pearl hops, so it's going to help keep it grounded with that little bit of hibiscus finish that gives it kind of a herbal tea finish, so it's not sweet or bitter and not overly sweet in general.
Yeah. It's not really coming through as much as it should, but it's got a nice, like a purplish tint to it as well. Purple pinkish tint. But that aroma is just
It's
like,
really pretty.
it's really nice. It's almost like smelling a flower or something out in the field.
Mm-hmm. When we brew it, the brew house smells amazing. It's so delicious.
Get nice into the carbonation there. Now, most people that watch the channel don't know I'm not usually a huge seltzer type person. So this is definitely pretty unique for me. But I actually like it. I think maybe because of the extra hopping and stuff that was done here.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think that we're going to win beer drinkers over. I think it's an opportunity to have a less offensive seltzer. So if you're on
Yeah.
the fence or you're drinking a seltzer and you also love beer, there's an in between. And that's where I was like, God, seltzers are kind of good, but I'm more of a beer person. And how can we make this more enjoyable for everyone? And I also didn't want a slim white can. I'm like, I need a real can in my hand. I need a real freaking can, not this little stuff that is not going to be enough. So
Companies with the slim cans, yeah.
It made me feel less of a beer drinker just even holding a skinny can. I'm like, this is, what am I paying for?
Yeah.
So,
you know, I drink it and it reminds me of I mean, it does remind me of like a flavored seltzer, but more so if I grabbed it off a shelf, like as a drink rather than an alcohol company trying to make a hard seltzer. It's not as sweet or something like that. Or it's kind of like if I just went and got like a Jones soda seltzer type thing, or I got a seltzer at like a little stand there and like the little restaurants like that. It has more of a natural feel to it than it does some of the other stuff where it's more artificial, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, again, this is one you can easily drink on a warm day, hot day. As we please get rid of the snow and bring the heat.
Oh, I bet. And if I was saying that it goes good with vodka, that's also a good mixer.
Strawberry. I'm getting straw. I'm trying to figure out which fruit it was. Like strawberry kind of feel into that one I'm getting, which I do like.
Yeah, and huckleberry can be really overpowering. So by choosing natural flavoring, we've really had to balance it. But if you don't have the natural, you just get that fake taste in your mouth and the film on your palate. And yeah, it was a balance, but I like the way it turned out.
Yeah, no, it turns out nicely. Like I can definitely put that down, everything along those lines. And I think over the last year, maybe year and a half, more of the breweries have been able to fine tune into the seltzer type thing, going back to when they first came out compared to where they are now. Like I've been at different festivals and different showings, and there's definitely a change that's taken place. But like anything, it takes time to get it down to the right recipe that actually works on those lines. So, but when seltzers first came out, it was like I was joking around like that's just Zima in a new bottle. That's all that is. But it's
Zima is horrible. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yes.
Yes. So glad those days are over.
Yeah. They tried to bring it back a couple of years ago and it didn't work, thank goodness. But yeah.
No. Yeah, I think, and that's what we were thinking is we just want a good flavor, whether it's alcoholic or not. Like if we can't get the flavor down, we're not doing it, right? We wanted to have something in that category. We're still going to make beer and focus on that, but can we get it? And I think it wasn't until we really found that flavor profile and how to make it with the hops that we're like, yes, we can do this, right? We can have a couple flavors of this.
Yeah. No, that's not bad at all there. So, and for the ones I'm drinking, for the people watching, I'll have the reviews upcoming on here as well. So you'll be able to check that out. I'm trying to think what else I had here too. In looking at some of the stuff that we have, how is it like, have you had other like tribal groups now starting to look into how you're doing there? Have you been reached out to like other parts of the country, like trying to look at that too and see how you might be working with them, or not even just tribal, maybe some of the women groups on like Pink Boots and all that stuff? Like, has there been other things you become more involved with from having this exposure now with Mad River?
Yes and no. So something ironic and crazy is I think that either we've had tribes reach out asking for help or how do we navigate this and storytelling. And one of the positive things is we get really positive reviews on our labels. We're not tokenizing anything. We don't put anything cultural on our cans. It's inappropriate. We don't have a chief. We don't have anything like that on there. I think from other groups, though, in general, we haven't got as much as I kind of assumed. And I think, too, with the pandemic, we're so isolated and we're thinking about what's serving us right now and trying to get through it. So hopefully that evolves a little bit more. I think that there's space and room for everyone, but it's been overwhelming questions from Indian country on asking, how is this working? And it's good to hear that, to be able to tell them the truth of, hey, avoid this. Think about this before you do it. Let me tell you about the negative with the positive. And also welcoming other partnerships and feedback. We're not trying to store any information or not share it. We're trying to be inclusive with anyone, native or not. So that's been exciting. And I think that will just grow over the next year or two with what we're doing and how we're doing it. I think there'll be more on the horizon.
Yeah. I think so. As more stuff happens, I think, like I said, having that agreement with the Giants and your name gets out there more and stuff like that, I think will bring some more eyes your way there as well. But you're definitely on the pace there with everything that you're doing with the brewery. As far as, goals down the line or things you're looking to do, things you're looking to bring to the brewery. Like, I actually did see, I looked online and on the website, which let me pull the website up here too, because I haven't pulled the website up. You guys apparently got some really good food there too. From some of the comments of people, and one guy's like, I recommend all the burgers. So
that's so funny.
out there. Yeah. But looking at the website here, Mad River Brewing, and here is the about page. You can see the awards. Actually, you got 9 awards out there, and so I missed it by 2 that you have out there from the different things. Great breakdown about what you're doing there. I think that's where I saw the 7 from that one, but there was 2 others that you mentioned from the world as well. And the brewing page. And oops. New merch store is open, by the way. Just got to put stuff in it. It says. But as far as the brews, I mentioned them earlier for the people that may have not been here. If I can get this thing to get to the right thing. Here are the beers as well. So we were talking about a little bit ago, right? So there's the Steelhead, the Jamaica Red Ale. The Jamaica Red Ale was one that kind of jumped out at me because it's just so funny. Like, okay, how did you get Jamaica into this California? With all the other tribal stuff taking place. Is that just, how did you choose that name, the Jamaica Red Ale?
So the original owners started that beer, and we updated the label, and actually the bird on it is the state bird for Jamaica, and it's the doctor bird. So we wanted to stay true to their indigenous culture as well and share a piece of that. And it was one of the best beers I think Mad River's ever made, and it was their ode to our area is very much reggae. We're quote unquote the Emerald Triangle of America. That grows things that would fit into that category. So it was our ode to the love of reggae and that lifestyle and the whole movement of the Jamaican lifestyle. And we wanted to keep it, and we definitely wanted to share it and update it. It's a delicious beer too. It's one of the most unique beers I think out there without it being offensive.
Yeah, it's here's some of the food picture. I was like, I was getting hungry, like just flipping through stuff there.
Yeah, and we're gonna be changing some things too, and offering new items, and even our logo and merch, revamping everything all together and getting ready. We've been under this lockdown, so every other month we're getting new regulations, and it's been hard to roll out new fun things.
Sure. But a lot of good stuff happening there for anybody who's out there. Some of the guys, people that do come in, there are some that are definitely in California that pop on here and check out stuff as well. The COVID stuff. So how did you end up working through all that stuff? Like, as far as, because California was one of those first early lockdown states, and it was like nobody go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went from being fine to nobody's allowed to go anywhere. Literally, you had to be a necessary business, and they were patrolling and saying, hey, if we catch people out, there's going to be a consequence. And thank goodness we were a necessary business, because we distribute to grocery stores. But really, it was a time where we were in constant turmoil of every other day. There was a new reality that we had to face that we've never had before. And when you take keg sales away from any brewery, that's where all your margin is. Our margin is not always in our packaged beer, it's in the keg. So we lost that opportunity. And our original goal was to really connect with Indian country and have our product in casinos and places where they can be proud. So when that was taken away, we had a moment to do all of our rebranding we wanted to do, and then reconnect on a different level and think about what we wanted to tell and who we wanted to be, and rethink our partnerships, hence why we reached out to a special team. So we've been in constant flex mode business wise, but really this whole time we have been prepping for when things are even slightly back to normal and getting our portfolio in line. So we're coming out of the pandemic somewhat. I feel way more prepared than we would have if the pandemic wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And so the response coming out of it has definitely been good then, as far as like support the community and people coming out and stuff like that now, or
Yeah, absolutely. And just being honest with our story. And I think it's really just honesty. We've been really honest with, hey, COVID hit us hard. We need support. We're looking to do this. We've been uplifted by so many. And now that people hear about us from all over, they reach out and want to buy our product or hear a story or partner with us. So it's been unbelievable, the uplift in the beer community and just in general for humans. It's a positive story, right? And I think now we need a good story more than ever, where it's just anything's possible.
Got that right. Yeah, with the way things are, we definitely need some good stories out there.
We do. With a good beer, right? We could tell a good story with a good beer.
Yeah. It's too much negativity out there for sure.
There is, yeah.
I think you get a little bit of raspberry in here too now with the huckleberry. I've never really had huckleberry before, so I'm kind of like getting a little bit of a feel of different things as it sits here. It starts to warm up a little bit and bring out some of the other flavors and stuff. So definitely pretty interesting. With the styles here out there right now. So we talked about the beers. You have are there styles you want to bring to the brewery that you just haven't done as of yet? Maybe I know. I almost feel like with some breweries you have to put out IPAs because people are just so trained in their. I gotta have an IPA. I gotta have an IPA. And I do like different reviews on beers, and people are like, well, what's a rock beer? What's a alt beer? What's a Keller beer? Like, they don't know these other styles that are out there. Are there anything that you're looking to maybe bring that you would like to have out there to start bringing to the experience of your people that come to the brewery?
Yeah, so our brewer made a Pilsner last year, and it was one of the best beers I've ever had. It's incredibly expensive to make, but we can dial that in. It was very smooth, well-bodied. We're also looking at the IPA realm too, but maybe doing it differently. I'm not a big fan of a lawnmower bag. I feel like when IPAs got really popular, and I guess being in the beer industry, you can really tell a well-crafted beer as opposed to this is the trend, let me just throw it all in there. And I felt like I drank a lot of beers that were just extremely overhopped because it was the cool thing to do. And I definitely do not want to make that mistake. So we're looking at a Pilsner. Our brewer is working on right now a white IPA with some pine tips in it. It's super amazing. We're looking at some local ingredients. I really would like to do a Crystal Weizen. I don't know how fast we can make that happen, but dipping into the other categories that aren't just the mainstream IPA or a pale, and dipping a little more into that. But yeah, definitely a Pilsner for the lighter side, and probably honestly pushing our John Barleycorn a little bit more. We have some aged bourbon barrel beer that they never put out there on that big scheme of things. And I think sharing those other beers that we do, I love a good porter. I think those are always undersold. So pushing what we have already and getting these other flavors out there.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say a porter undersold. Yeah, brown ales are a lot of times undersold too. You don't see a lot of brown ales as much, but there's definitely some opportunities out there. And I just feel like, people just think of certain beers. They think of, 3 or 4 different things. There's like somebody always says like, well, I don't really like beer. Which one don't you like? Any of these beers, like, did I show them? Well, put on this chart which one you don't like, and there'll be a chart with all the different stuff. Like, wait a minute, there's that many types of beers out there. Like, so yeah, it just blows your mind at times. But Jeff, who who actually watched the channel stuff. He said a question, looking online at the beers, I noticed there are no hazies. Very few breweries can do this. Why no haze? They keep the lights on at many breweries nationwide. So
we get that question often, and I'm more concerned from the sales side that we didn't jump on that in the beginning of the ship. And as when you've been in the industry, things change and trends change. Also for us, getting our main beers out there first. I'm not saying we're never going to do one, but it's not in the immediate future. And also getting that cost control down. We have done some similar in our tap room, but selling it nationwide or even in our state, getting that price control. It's just getting that nailed down. And right now in the pandemic and the cost of ingredients, it has to work to a price that the consumer can afford. And then we feel confident it's a good product. So not right now. It may happen, but I think we're going to venture into other styles of IPA as opposed to a hazy and let everyone else own that category that they've already established.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about making that solid baseline and not being the ones chasing the different things. That's one of the breweries here in Ohio platform. It seemed like they were always chasing different things, whatever the thing was. They never really had a base identity, so to speak. And I think the ones that are definitely good, like someone mentioned earlier in the chat, they were drinking a Sierra Pale Ale, which that's their base. Like that, they built that up, or it's just like what you're going to get. It's solid. It's just a nice beer you can always come back to, right? So you got to have that baseline, and you can go out and experiment with other stuff. And a lot of breweries, they do the small batch processing now, which is what I was going to ask if that's what you're kind of thinking of as you test the market. So that way you're not putting a huge barrel out there. You're doing a little bit of small barrel and seeing what goes over well, because that's worked out good for some of the breweries, and they do like the limited releases on stuff. But yeah, it's a business part of it where you have to be conscious of what you actually need to do to one, you got to meet that bottom line, and two, you want to have success behind it as well, not just be throwing stuff at the wall.
Yeah, two totally separate things, right? Beer is an art, and we have multiple things in our tap room. It's really nailing it down and figuring out what works business wise. And unfortunately, it's also to the consumer who's going to buy it. And can we sell enough to meet that demand? And we did so one of the things that we purchased when we purchased a brewery was our own canning line and pilot brew system. And that pilot brew system really allowed us to be way more experimental as opposed to veering from it. Otherwise, it's thousands and thousands of dollars lost. So we do that. We do a pilot brew. We'll have everyone taste it. We have in our tap room. We'll ask for reviews. We'll send it out. And I think probably either the end of this year, maybe even starting next year, we'll start doing seasonals. But with the pandemic, it's just been really hard to get your beer out there. It's really hard to do business when everything has been shut down. So I think now we're looking at what can we do next? Now we're ready to start putting new things out there.
Yeah. How do you feel like from the competition aspect? Do you feel like things are still pretty solid competition wise? Do you feel like things are ramping up a little bit more? Do you feel like they've maybe eased a little bit? I mean, there's definitely been some breweries I know affected by the pandemic where they're not in business now. And I don't know if that makes a easier release for some of the other breweries that are in business, because now they don't have that competition. It's always sad to see a brewery go down. But at the same point, it's like people are always worried if craft brewer was too saturated, we were having too many out there. So I don't know, from your perspective, how do you feel like competition? Do you feel like you're in a squeeze or anything like that? Or do you feel like no, it's still full ahead on stuff? Or
so this is kind of a loaded answer. I think that we have so many different categories of beer, domestics, craft, all different styles. I'm actually working on creating our own category of more of a Native American indigenous. So as of right now, there's not many others that are distributed. And hopefully we're creating a category for others to join us. But as of right now, when I'm going and selling our product and telling the importance of the story on our cans outside of even just what's in it, right? You have this quality beer that is still needed in the craft beer business, but do you have any other beer that's telling a story like mine is? Do you have any other representation of indigenous people? It's really hard to come back with that, right? And telling them the why, especially when we have the numbers and the history to back it up. And even though the craft beer category is completely loaded and we're all in this trying to do it, I feel really positive that we're making our own pathway that's going to be slightly different and hopefully creating a space for others to come and join us. And also starting, and I know it's been done out there, but telling stories with each beer, like there's a reason behind it. This beer is XYZ and it's made to support XYZ, and having that reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think there's competition, but we're creating our own category.
Which is good. I mean, to create that path. And I think that would be excellent, because I feel like I mentioned my friend that had the sweet potato beer. It's kind of like, I would love to see more beer from the indigenous culture, different things that were done as far as ingredients that you have, that you're putting in the beer that other cultures are not tapping into, that bring that opportunities. Because I mean, that's, like I said, that's the amazing thing when you're trying different things in craft beer. You're able to pick up those different experiences and that different history along those lines. But Sam has said, he said, I'm sick of hazy beers now. I'm clean and crisp lagers. Bitter West Coast or big roasty style. So yeah. So Sam is actually over. I think Sam's actually over in Australia and stuff too. But yeah, like you mentioned, you're working on like the Pilsner you want to do. I mean, there's the last year and a half, 2 years, there's definitely been more of an opening of getting back into some of those crisp lagers that the craft beer world is now seeing. You're seeing more of the craft breweries kind of go that route, because you get fatigued on some stuff. I mean, I get fatigued on IPAs after a certain point, that it's like, I'll go 2-3 months without having an IPA. I can't even think the last time I had a hazy IPA, not to mention I've had a regular IPA, I think maybe in the last couple weeks. And then before that, it might have been a month or two, because but I like to get the other stuff. I like Belgian ales are probably my top style that I really enjoy.
So good.
Yeah, so I can always. I'm like, Fast and Furious or Kurt Russell. He's talking to Vin Diesel about drinking that Belgian ale, and he's like, you just can't go wrong. It's always so good on those. Yeah, and so you find things that you like, but I feel like there's just so much everywhere. Like now that I moved to Baltimore, I go to the store. It's like IPA. I finally find a spot where they have a selection, but most of the things like IPA just all in your face everywhere. It's like, not everybody wants that.
Everywhere.
Not everybody wants that. Yeah. And
it's
I'm like,
taken over a category. Yeah.
It is. It becomes a point of, does the consumer really want it, or is it just they're being pushed upon them? So that's the thing that takes place there. That's that whole battle between everything. But I like to try the different things so I don't get burned out. But Mallory actually said, Linda, where do you see diversity in the craft beer world in the next 5 to 10 years compared to the progress of the previous years you've seen?
Our voices being heard. It's really good to see other people be honest about who they are and putting their culture or history into the can. And even though we don't share some things, for me personally in our tribe, just to come out and say, hey, I am XYZ and these things are important to me and I want to share my story with you. It's like walking into someone's home for dinner. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's true. You're sharing something personal, and I see it growing. I think we're starting to see a flux of more culture getting out there. I just had a wasabi sour not too long ago, and it was really good to hear the story of why he did that and the uniqueness in his culture and background. And I'm starting to see more breweries pop up. And I think of all of us banding together and creating the need for this, it's only going to grow and happen and be supported. And we're already in this industry. We're just not in everyone's viewpoint. So I think us escaping out of everyone's control and being out there on our own, it's going to grow. And people want a real story. We don't want the fake facade of stuff anymore. We're going through an awakening. And we want to hear the truth. We want to purchase something that we feel good about. I want to support someone if I'm having a beer.
Right.
So yeah, I see it growing, and if we're supporting each other and lifting each other up and sharing each other's stories, it's only going to get better.
Yeah, and part of that is the access too, just the more and more access that's starting to come out now, because for a long time the Black community was actually overlooked, Black and Latino, I'll say, because I know a lot of friends of Latino that were overlooked, and now you actually have that kind of seeing more stuff there. The only thing that always got me is like, when I go to some of the breweries, like we talked about the numbers earlier, but all these different breweries will have like hip hop names on their beers. And it's like, I'm the only Black guy in here. How do you get this name? Or you see like a couple, and it's like, and I feel like in some way, like, and you've seen this, we were kind of touching on some of the sports stuff where it's like the culture is being taken for granted and stuff like that and everything too. So the people need to be in that space to actually occupy that culture. And it seems like we're heading towards more in that direction as well. And that's being pointed out to people, and they're starting to understand that.
And we're telling our own story, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
someone's asked me, what's the difference between appropriation and acknowledgement? And I said, appropriation is assuming you know and telling the story for us. Acknowledgement is us telling our own story. Mm-hmm. And no matter what our own story is, that's our story to tell. Right. And they're all different, right? My experience is different than yours, to the next person, to the next person. And we do not need people speaking for us. So we are completely capable of sharing our experiences and why they're important and what we can do to make it better and how it made us feel. And it's time that we have our own voice.
Yeah, definitely. And Mallory's a beautiful answer. Thank you. Yeah. So my buddy Eric, he's up in Canada. He says, white people love Dr. Dre, which is true, because I haven't seen as many white people talk about Dr. Dre until after that Super Bowl. Everybody was sitting all talking about the halftime show. And, oh, it took me back to my youth. Like, really? Like, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to see Snoop in concert in 2 months, and I'm so excited.
Are you really?
Live my 90s dream. Finally. Yeah. But then again, like we have that with culture, right? And sometimes they're the same and sometimes they're totally different. Like the sweet potato beer, I don't know if I would put that into that line of culture, right? Like I want to try that sweet potato beer. I want to try those unique flavors, and everyone has a different story.
Yeah, but like you said, and being able to have that space for people to tell it is the key as well. Not to have it told for them. Samson, it's actually been better in Australia for them with craft beer during the pandemic. Most of the breweries adapted to change and pushed online sales. Communities rallied and supported the locals. And that's what we had here too. Like when the brewery, like I don't know if you were doing that where you were. When it happened, were you able to go to like deliveries to people or curbside pickup type things and all that kind of stuff to kind of adapt?
Yeah, we did. We did curbside. We don't have delivery where we're at. We're super remote location, literally in the redwoods of California, but we're already distributed. So just really emphasizing the importance of distribution and why it's important that we're fighting for that shelf space. And it also became the reasoning of we have to get mainstream. Unfortunately, we have, maybe not us as a brand, but we have to get our name out there mainstream for people to know us, because we have to be able to survive all these crazy times.
Right.
And before this, people were able to survive as a small brewery and have people come in and out. And when that ability was taken away, you realized we need a bigger audience. We need to get out there. So our focus on distribution grew as curbside service and come pick up.
Yeah. He said we ended up getting access to a lot more important stuff from the U.S., Europe. So for him, it came out. And that's why I said, like, we're always throwing things at some point of time through history that shifts the landscape, right? It was funny, like when it happened, like people can go to regular movie theaters because of the COVID, but then the drive-ins came back as being a thing to go to for a lot of cities. And it's kind of like, these things happen and you adapt to it. So you make the switch. And now, even though I would say we're all fully out, I guess we're pretty much out of COVID in a way that we're dealing with it now, some things are sticking around. So you still have some things that are taking place at some states where they were delivering beer with food. They're still delivering beer with food, or you can have beer delivery in states you didn't have previously. So there's different things that come out of it. So it's definitely been a situation, depending where you're at, where you may have benefited, not to say you benefited from COVID, but you may have been put in a better situation than you were previously. Because now you have other revenue streams open to you that you didn't have.
Yeah, and I think that our legislature, our states, and our government realized maybe we overregulated something.
Yeah,
they're taking opportunities to
I don't know if they ever realized
away from us, right?
They still overregulate a lot of stuff.
They totally, but things were definitely looser, right? Like we could drink in our parking lot now, and if we were able to do delivery, we could, right? It was just our specific location. But all those things are necessary, and we're blocking so many opportunities of trying these wonderful things because of these little rules. And I think we're realizing, is that necessary?
Yeah.
We don't need to go back to how it was.
Yeah. So, you take it and you switch. I mean, that's what the human experience is. We adapt to things as they're positioned to us, I guess. But your brewery also, I noticed on there too, and I've had this come up a few times in the past. So you're like pet friendly. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
Pets come up a lot with breweries. Like people ask about, like, can I
Mm-hmm.
bring my dog or whatever? I'm thinking dog's the most common pet you probably get there. I don't know if anybody else brings anything because you can't really walk a cat. I mean, cats are going to do what a cat's going to do.
Yeah, true. They have their own mind. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's funny because there are some breweries that won't allow pets in, or you have to keep them on the patio. So, but do you have that come up a lot of times? Like, can I bring my pet, or is it like you get like a giver? I see some breweries where they'll sell like doggy bones and stuff like that and everything to
Mm-hmm.
feed the pets while they're there. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're very dog friendly. I think we get voted usually most pet friendly place in our county every year.
Oh
And in
wow.
fact, Carly, our unicorn of our company, I keep calling her that, our sales director, she took our spent grain to make dog treats for the dogs here. So
Wow.
we are for sure pet friendly and always trying to grow that. And it's an important part of our family. And the whole idea of beer is to enjoy it with this conversation with the people you love. And our pets are our family. They're our children. They're our best friend. They're our companion.
For some, they're part of the family
So,
too. I mean, pets,
right.
it's it's
Yeah.
the unconditional
Yeah.
love. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We embrace the animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this has been excellent. I'm trying to think other things you want to mention about the brewery, other things that upcoming or
Yeah, I think just really opening up to people who have questions or want to know what we're doing, or maybe we can help someone else too. I think that's really important. We've been given this incredible opportunity and to be able to help others that need the same assistance, really putting that out there that we're not keeping our story tight close to us. We want to share it, whether it's the story of how we got here or what we're doing to do our
yeah.
best, putting it out there and really driving the need for a real experience with your beverage. And to all our consumers out there, pay attention when you're buying that beer and support these causes and at least give it a try, right? No
Well,
matter who they
definitely.
are,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have to really help each other and purchase these things and be more inclusive and diverse. And
Yeah.
hopefully, maybe next year we have this conversation. There's a whole native category. Who knows?
You never know. It's funny. Last week we were
Never
talking.
know.
There was an article I was reading when we were talking about on the show last week. Mexican style lager, or maybe it was the week
Mm-hmm.
before. There's really no category for Mexican style lager, and it's funny
Mm-hmm.
because you see these breweries come out with it, and I had thought of it because I was reading a piece of a person that put the question out there, like who are the people coming up with this category because there's no definition for a Mexican style lager. Really, a Mexican style lager is kind of like, are you going to say what it's more corn based because you have that American type thing?
Mm-hmm.
So it became a thing of basically the brewers putting something out there on a label
Mm-hmm.
where the people
Mm-hmm.
that say were Mexican weren't representing themselves. You're kind of saying it's a Mexican style lager. And if you went to Mexico, they might not even know what it is you were drinking because they don't even drink a beer like that. So it's just interesting as we were talking about that. And that's where it gets into the whole expansion. So I would love to see like even more Mexican breweries, let them expand, on what
Me
they would
too,
consider
and
that.
not
Yeah.
just Corona. I'm like, they're
Yeah.
not buying Corona.
Funny thing about
They're not
Corona.
buying Corona. Oh my gosh, right? There's so many good
Yeah.
Mexican style lagers, and that's the first thing everyone brings up, Corona. And I'm like, oh my goodness, no.
That's like when people used to go to
Yeah.
Chi-Chi's and thought they were going Mexican for dinner. But no, that's not really a
Right?
Mexican restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some really cool craft breweries doing really good Mexican lager that have this authentic taste and flavor. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is what I want, not a Corona. This is
Yeah.
amazing. And it's in a can where it's not saturated with light and skunk.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Yeah, and there are some good breweries but they're actually bringing in Mexican ingredients
Mm-hmm.
that they're brewing
Real,
with and
yeah.
stuff too. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it was one of those things you saw out there, and it's just like
What is that?
it's not really like that. Like and even like the BJCP doesn't even recognize that as a style. Like someone just threw that out there, and it's just like you got a country of people that were like, I don't even know what that is right there. It's kind of like
Yeah.
go in there and asking them, you want to get like some order of something from Taco Bell. They wouldn't know what you were talking about. Like,
Right? Yeah. It's crazy. It's almost a form of tokenization, right? We're like, oh, this is a Mexican style lager.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm going to crack
Good to
open
see, bro.
Historic State Park India Pale Ale. And this is the fresh citrus hop flavor we mentioned. This one is the 6.6.
6.6.
Yeah, 6.6. Okay.
And the IBUs are around 36.8. So it has more of that IPA flavor. It's just not on the crazy end of that IBU.
Yeah.
So it's not super bitter.
Yeah, it's funny how it's just that fine line between being a pale ale to an India pale ale.
It is really it's in the middle.
Yeah.
It definitely is in the middle. We have that medium body with some grapefruit and citrus aromas with some tropical passion fruit and ripe melon.
I like the artwork with the animals there on the front.
Thanks. Yeah. And the name of this beer is pretty interesting. So the Yurok tribe's been working with California State Parks for some time now to get one of their parks turned back to the tribe to tell the accurate story. And that happened a year and a half ago where they're like, hey, for the first time in history, we're going to hand this park to you to run it and you create the content and tell the real story as it should be, right? Not our story. That's not accurate, but tell your own. And I was talking with one of the California State Park supervisors. He was like, hey, you should name a beer after us. And I was like, oh, is that possible? Like, can I do that? Is that okay? And so I was like, absolutely. Right. So we created Historic State Park IPA about the partnership and the importance of telling the accurate story. And just like Undammed, after profitability, we want to make sure we have money for that interpretation to keep it real and Yurok employees in there telling the story. And California State Parks has just been amazing working with us on that. And that's that tribute and a conversation piece too, knowing that you're buying this great beer and supporting the story.
Right. Nice aroma.
It has a light, bitter, malty finish. It's not so much extra bitter like a lot of IPAs. It's kind of in between and more that citrusy, different finish.
Yeah. You do get a lighter, resiny, musty dankness out of it. Which is always funny when I bring up musty. All my friends that don't really know craft beer are like, why would I want to drink anything musty? Well, it's just what an IPA does. It's just what comes to mind. It's like anywhere outside of beer, musty, people wouldn't like it. But a craft beer, it's like, oh, okay, I understand.
Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah.
You see that in the gym, it's like, stay away from me, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's all context.
But it's got a smooth body on the palate. Orange peel. Some pininess. A little bit of a grassy feel. I tell you, I mean, it goes down, like you said, malty on the back end, very smooth. It slides right down, no problem. The bitterness is toned down on it. And it leaves like a flavor there in the cheeks. I always talk about in some of the videos, after you drink, like you can squeeze the cheeks in your mouth and it'll bring out more flavors. So it's kind of got that going on with it too. So
it's one of those, we didn't want to go super crazy on that over hop flavor and have the hops take away from the flavor of the actual beer. It's really in between. We wanted
the hops and the malts are balanced nicely. Like I said, that's another one that on a hot day you can easily throw this down and stuff. I mean, over the 6 level, I wouldn't say if you were a golfer, you would have thrown a bunch of these down, but
if you wanted to win.
If you were sitting on the dock of the bay or something, maybe,
or at the Giant Stadium, that beer will be there. It's a great ballpark beer.
Got a little bit of light, but syrupy type feel, which I get a lot of times in IPAs, but it's very light on this one. Yeah, it's easy drinking.
We have a double IPA that I'll send you. It's called Salmon. We're about to release a new label. It's one of my favorite IPAs. It's not overly hopped. It's really smooth. I think it's a fuller body. I'll send you some along with our John Barley Corn. But the IPA, the smoothness is critical for us. Yeah.
Well, with the double, like sometimes they'll ask me, like, why don't I like IPA? I might not get double. I said, well, double IPA, although it could be bigger, it could also be smoother because the malts are raised up to give you over that. And so people I have some friends that don't like IPAs, but they'll drink a couple double IPAs because they actually enjoy those. It's smoothed out a little bit more. So with the rise in the malts for the ABV, but no, very, very easy going down. I appreciate the beers there. It was a nice feel, and again, for the people that just tuned in, I'll have reviews up on these because I have extras on them, so I'll do those on separate videos. But no, I'm happy to hear you're having success out there, and you got a lot of good stuff going on. And like I said, love to find out more as you're doing things, and definitely have you back on again. And no, this is awesome. It's a great experience, and I just feel like I was so happy to get you on here. So it was just like a nice, energetic type thing. So yeah.
It's also really nice that people like you are putting out stories, right? Like we have kind of stopped doing that a little bit and sharing the importance of what we do. It's not just beer. It's that partnership and storytelling and good time. And we've kind of lost that a little bit unless it's mainstream media. So the fact that you're doing this, I can speak for every brewery. It's so important to hear what other breweries are doing and hearing their genuine story. And it does motivate us. We hear these stories and we're like, dang it, I want to get up and do better tomorrow. So thank you for doing this. It's important.
No, I definitely appreciate it. I feel like there's that space out there more so for, for groups marginalized, so to speak. So talking about whether it's Native American, whether it's talking about African American, we're talking about Latin. I mean, I tell stories for everybody, but I feel like the opportunity is to have other stories told that aren't being told out there. There's a lot of people doing different things out there. Let them all do that. I'm trying to find those other type of things I can bring and put my spin on. And here on the channel, I like to have fun. So we have a lot of good laughs. And, my whole thing with the stuff that I do is to help people learn about beer in a fun, educational way where they can laugh at the end of it too. So that's what
right. And have a good time.
And have a good time. Yeah. So, it's like going to see a comedian. The comedian will give you some facts at points, but he'll put a spin on it where you're kind of laughing about too. So you're kind of like, you'll learn, but you're not realizing you're learning some things as well. So that's what I really enjoy. And to have someone like you come on is awesome as well, to be able to express and tell that story and allow people to meet, people behind the scenes. And like I said, I've had other people on for some of the breweries, and it's just like, it's amazing after we get done, they're like, I can't believe like people were actually there asking me stuff or doing it. It's like, people want to learn more about it. They like to get that knowledge and stuff like that and stuff. So it's kind of like after it runs, I'll get comments later on, and people ask stuff too. So no, it was great to have you on. I'm glad you were able to spend some time here doing this and everything. So
I had so much fun, and I hope everyone tunes into all your shows and giving us a virtual happy hour. I just want to say I appreciate it. You're bringing back some normalcy, so cheers to that and your happy hour.
Well, I appreciate that, and we'll get you back on. Like I said, I'm overdue for the Women in Volume 2 broadcast. So someone like you, maybe someone like Mallory, who's in the comment, some other key women around beer. Love to have you guys on for the next volume of that, and we'll talk about some different things there as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone listening and viewing. I'm super excited and thankful.
And thank you guys, everybody that tuned in. And make sure you check out Mad River Brewing, Instagram, Mad River Brews. I got it scrolling across the bottom if you guys haven't noticed. I have all the details there. Also in the description, the website is listed, as well as a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, everything along those lines. It's brewery to definitely check out. It's for those of you that check in from California later on. It's right in your back neighborhood. So make sure you guys pay a visit or check out some of this stuff. How far is your distribution going? I didn't ask you that. Like,
we're throughout California, Oregon, and then probably some more states here very shortly.
Okay. One of my other friends that does beer stuff, Beer Man, he's up in Oregon. I have to let him know to check you out there too. Yeah. He would love to talk with you too. So But thanks for everybody that tuned in. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. And Thursday night, I'll be back with Toss One Back Thursday. It'll be St. Patty's edition, so I don't know what's going to happen there. So should be fun. Another drinking night. Not that we need a holiday because we do it anyway, but now that it's a holiday, it's even that much special. But to everybody that tuned in, definitely appreciate you, and I definitely look forward to catching up with everybody soon. Y'all have a good one, and have a great night.